Hey, Sanjana, welcome to the Education Next podcast. And I'm happy and excited to have you here. I've been following your content from quite some time, and I love that you explore alternate learning spaces and you are in different places with kids uh, and in different environments. So I am all here like a student, ready to learn from
Mm.
you. So tell us about yourself and what you do. How did you reach here? Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me on this podcast. I'm excited to have this conversation. So a bit about myself. If you want, I'll tell you about myself in the context of education and why I'm into alternative education.
Mm,
So I went to an alternative school in Pondicherry where there were no exams, no boards.
mm,
The curriculum from 10th onwards, you could design yourself. So then they give you a blank timetable and then you get to design that this period I want to do, let's say filmmaking, and I want to do it with this teacher. And you get to design that entire learning for yourself.
mm,
And so because of this, and there also was a lot of importance given to integral education. So you have heard a lot of people say holistic education, but then they'll only focus on emotions and very lightly on other things. But then here we had a lot of importance on body, which is the physical aspect. So then we used to have sports 7 days a week of different aspects of the body working. So in the sense,
mm,
there'll be gymnastics, swimming, so things like that. And then for the cognitive, then you'll be doing like normal. It was like what you study in normal schools, like so
mm,
English
mm,
subjects, things like that. And then for the emotional part,
mm,
it was not so much as like these days, no, they'll ask you questions about just your feelings or things like that, but it was more about you being a part of nature. So then they used to take us to farms, take us to departments. So then we used to make agarbattis, we used to do
mm,
farm just to get different
mm,
perspectives about what different people do in their lives.
mm,
So holistic in that way.
mm,
So growing up in that environment for
mm,
18 years,
mm,
I always felt like, why can't all children study in schools like this? And then as I was growing up, as I got a little more mature, I realized it's not as easy as that. No, that's just a question that a teenager asks. But then I felt like
mm,
education is something that is very, very complex that involves a lot of people.
mm.
So I felt like I really wanted to explore that question, and I really wanted to understand that a lot more. So then that's why I feel like I am in the education space trying to understand alternative education even more and the mainstream education, because I feel like I don't have that much of an idea of what mainstream education really means, like a lived experience of it.
Mm. That's why you're in this amazing journey. And did you have school curriculums and exams and something like that? Did you have those things? No.
No exams at all.
Mm,
So then there is a curriculum. So they follow a French curriculum because it is Pondicherry. The school follows a French curriculum. So the whole school is in a French medium. The school is called Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education. So
mm,
it's the whole thing is taught in a French medium.
mm,
And then it's like a normal till you're in 10th. There's a proper curriculum. So there's the first period they'll teach you English, then Sanskrit, and then maths. So there's a curriculum that is there, but then there's a lot of space for extracurricular. So then you can choose that whether you want to do pottery or whether you want to do carpentry. So there is a curriculum, but till the 10th, there's very little freedom in that curriculum because they feel like your identity still needs to be exposed to a lot of things. So they
mm,
give you that exposure before you can make a choice.
mm.
After 10th, then you get that blank curriculum, like I told you, and then you get to design your learning and what you want to learn.
So, but 10th exam and 12th exam happens just like any school, something like that, the board exam.
No, it doesn't happen. So then that's the question I get the most is that if you don't write the 10th or the 12th, then
Mm,
what kind of opportunities do you have after that? So the thing is, even though we don't write the 10th or the 12th, we get things like transcripts. So most schools abroad, they give transcripts. So then whatever the child has actually studied. So let's
mm,
say in maths, instead of giving marks for the math, let's say they got 90% out of 100. Here
mm,
they'll say, okay, in maths, they studied this in multiplication, this, so particular things in what. So then you have like a CV for each subject.
mm,
So that used to get into other universities or get into jobs. The only place you can't get into with this kind of certificate or degree is government colleges or
Mm,
universities in India. Most
correct.
colleges, private places allow because they have an entrance exam, and private and government colleges abroad allow because they are okay with transcripts.
Hmm. But otherwise, they still ask, they see this is very typical to show your 10th and 12th certificate because
Hmm.
it's really funny. But even now, when you apply for something and they say, "Where's your 10th certificate?" I really feel like laughing because why is it even asked? How
Yeah.
does it even matter? But still, in some places, we're still asked. And I think this will be a major question from many parents who want to take
Like,
this. Yeah.
correct, definitely. But just an example is my classmate who has not given an exam for entire life, just like me. She right now wanted to get into the Air Force, and so she wrote that exam, and
Hmm.
they were okay with our system and the way our school works. And now she scored like she's all India like top 11th rank.
Wow.
So I feel like that idea that you can't get into because you've not had an exam your entire life is like a false connotation that we have all been fed for like ages.
Yeah, I know because see, I don't know. See, because we have to write three times exam in a year, so multiply 12 into maybe into three or more than that times in your schooling life, and then you're going to prepare children for exam writing. It's like a notion which
Mm,
is I think just because I want to prepare for the bigger exam in my life,
mm,
I keep writing exam and training myself such that the joy of learning is somewhere lost. Because I have worked in school as well, so I remember talking to 11th and 12th graders. Whenever I would ask them, "Hey, how are you?" they would tell me, "Don't, I'm not in a good mood. We have exams." So all the year throughout, because pre mock and then that pre mock, they were always writing exams. And like you said, your friend was holds 11th rank, and
mm,
because it was her interest and she did well. As
mm,
simple as that, right? You don't have to prepare, because anyways the kind of exams that you get in school will be different from the kind you will get in college and university and whatever, isn't it?
mm.
So now that from how long you have been exploring this different kind of learning and yeah,
Mm.
education? Hmm.
I've been exploring this whole education space since I was in the
Hmm.
11th standard. So 11th standard was when I had that questioning period in my life where I was thinking about the education that I was having because I was seeing my cousins or like people I know who are not studying in my school who were like very stressed about life and the way they think about school. Like they didn't want to go, or it was always a very stressful thing. And for me, it was more about, oh, what will I do for sports today? Or we're going to this farm, so how will I
Hmm.
be ready for that? It was never a stressful thing.
Hmm.
So then just these basic, very, very fundamental questions I began asking. And then I thought that there were things that in my school also that I felt like could be better. So then I used to write mails at that point to my principal, like print out mails.
Hmm.
So then I used to email it to him,
Hmm.
and then like in a proper letter and all. And so then I tried to make changes in my own school.
Hmm.
So that gave me like a starting point that I could make a change in the system. Like that feeling is something that I really cherished, and I felt like, okay, I want to be able to do that for a bigger range of people and not be restricted to just my school.
Hmm.
So given that, then I wanted to go to other schools. Then I went to Udavi when I was in my first year of college. I did an internship in another alternative school in Auroville. Then
Hmm.
I did a internship in all this during my vacations only. So I would do school, and then in my vacations I would use my vacation time for this.
Wow.
Then
Hmm.
one big is an alternate school in Delhi.
Hmm.
So I did internships there. And
Hmm.
then finally, when I was graduating, it was COVID. So until COVID, the idea was, I think, like regular, normal person, I would just wanted to finish my college, get a job, find something that I like doing, and in
Hmm.
between get a master's,
Hmm.
just so that
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
get a proper degree. That idea that okay, I've
Correct.
studied now.
Mhm.
So that was the path. Then when COVID happened, I was like, okay, I'm not going to waste my time now, go like paying for the college and sitting at home and studying. I might as well think of what do I want to do rather than what do I want to study. So then I started thinking about what do I want to do. Then this idea of education kept coming back, and then that gave me the time to really think about what do I not understand. Instead of what do I understand, maybe I understand the alternative space, but what don't I understand? So I felt like I've only heard experiences about the mainstream system, like people telling me that this is wrong, the system is broken, things like that. So then I felt like I wanted to understand that more. So then I did a diploma certificate in Azim Premji in early childhood education.
Mhm.
So that's when I met so many people who were doing really amazing work. Okay,
Mhm.
like they were really into education, they were spending their entire money, life just on this cause. Then I felt like there are so many people doing so many great things. Why is no one talking about this? Why is only everyone having only this connotation that the Indian education system is broken? That's one narrative that everyone keeps talking about. But why is
Correct.
no one seeing that people like you and me are doing things? Okay, that it's
Mhm.
not broken, that people are trying.
Mhm.
So then I felt like I wanted to talk about those experiences. So then I started the podcast, and
Mhm.
YouTube came with that.
Mhm.
So then I shared those experiences of different people doing different things in the education system. And then I felt like it was still a very conversational understanding. So I wanted a lived experience. So that's why then right now I joined the Teach for India Fellowship to
Mhm.
really understand the mainstream education system, the government education system from the perspective of a teacher. Like, what does it
Correct.
mean to make a change? Can alternative changes be made in the system? How flexible is it?
Mhm.
So yeah, that's where I am on this
So,
journey.
how is your experience now with the fellowship, and what are the things that are frustrating you? That because you're coming from a very alternate freedom sort of a adventure kind of schooling. So, what are the couple of differences, stark differences that you see?
Uh, One very, very stark difference is the physical education aspect
Mm.
because I teach third grade, okay,
Mm.
and it's a very small classroom and there are 35 kids there. And
Mm.
now their children means they're 10 years old and there's so much energy, like
Mm.
constantly they have energy. And I feel bad, like I feel like a bad person to tell them, no, you have to sit, don't fidget, sit and listen to what I'm saying because I'm
Mm.
teaching you something valuable for you, which will be
Mm.
useful to you. But
Mm.
I'm not thinking that the child has so much energy and he has no way to use that energy. And the only way people curb that energy is by coming and like people hit. Okay, these kids, they'll walk past my room, the HM and people like that, they'll come and hit. Okay. And I
Mm.
feel like you're just telling the kid like you can't be normal. Like their normal is that they have energy and they want to be able to use that. But instead of giving them a space where they can use it, we are like, no, you have to study, you have to be academically really driven,
Mm.
nothing else. That's the only focus you need to have. So I feel like for a child, instead of giving them space to think independently and to think for themselves, we are just telling them that only we're going to only evaluate you from one perspective, how you're
Mm.
doing your academics. Nothing else matters. Even if you cannot walk, it doesn't matter. If you can answer this question and get 20 out of 20, that's good enough for us. So
Mhm.
that is how we just label a kid and we make him feel like that is your worth. So I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of kids, even though they might be very gifted for sports
Mm.
or like other things apart, like craft, even craft, but they don't feel valued
Mm.
because we only value kids who are academically gifted and
Mm.
who can. It's not even academically gifted. It's only for people who have that knack of passing exams. It's not necessarily that you are smart. It's just that knack of passing that exam.
Mm.
So I feel like the kid is very restricted to just that. So that is one. And I think the second one is that I've tried to change this a lot, but I feel like it's very ingrained because
Mm.
the system is only such that.
Mm.
So when I entered this classroom in August, I
Mm.
used to write question on the board and I come, we'll all discuss this question and we'll all give our perspectives.
Mm.
They were like, no, ma'am, you write the answer and we'll copy it and we'll come and tell you tomorrow. I like, no, we'll discuss. You tell me the answer. We'll guess the answer. It's okay if it's wrong. They're like, no, no, we won't tell. You only write the answer, we'll copy it. they were so adamant on me writing the answer so that I can copy it. And they're 10-year-old kids. Instead of
Mm.
being like bubbling with questions, they were like just no, submit they were submissive to me telling them something and them repeating that. So to see that curiosity killed at that age is like just very sad. So now I've been trying to like really get that out of them to like ask questions. It's okay if it's wrong, doesn't matter.
Mm.
Even if the spelling is wrong, doesn't matter. Just the fact that you're expressing yourself is the first fundamental thing. After that, we can see your spelling, everything else. So I feel like that cannot be changed unless that hierarchy between the teacher and student is reduced. If the teacher is standing with a stick and saying that, okay, now you tell me the answer, obviously the kid is not going to give a answer that is genuine. No, they're going to give it out of fear. So
Mm.
that fear of answering, of the fear of being in that classroom is what takes that curiosity out. So I feel like as a fellow right now, I've really liked the experience of trying to change that from them not being able to answer to them really wanting to ask questions. I've seen small changes, but yeah, I think a very long way to go.
I think it's quite exceptional thing that you're doing, I think, because exploring before and making calls on what's happening in the education system, and then I think it's not right to assume what's happening. And when you experience this, you understand that there are problems, right? Not everybody can have a private education, and sadly the population is huge. There has to be 35 or 40 kids in the classroom, because parents cannot help, not every parent can help, and those are the ground problems, I think. But at the same time, we are also seeing now that there is this um, I don't know if I shall call it exploration or something, but many parents are coming out of that system now. They are talking about homeschooling, unschooling, alternate learning. So what do you think of that, about this the surge that's happening now of exploring more of different kind of educational spaces, especially from parents living in different cities? What do you think of it?
I think that's really great. But just to the point that you said before about me exploring the space before making a call. So I feel like I'm doing that so that I don't just because I feel like it's a very common thing now on if you're on Twitter, I think you're on Twitter. So then I feel
Hmm.
like it's a very common thing to be proud that you have an opinion and to say it as loudly as possible, even though it's not as right as possible, but just that it's loud is good enough. That is valuable now.
Hmm.
Now the parents thing, I feel like it's a really great thing that parents are exploring other options. And that is why I started the YouTube channel in the first place, so that parents could know that other things are happening. Like other schools
Hmm.
are doing things like that. And it's not that you have to be in a CBSE, ICSE, IB
Correct.
school, that there are other options that you can explore. I just feel like the only thing that should not happen is that you should make decisions out of like that FOMO feeling, no? That this parent is
Hmm.
doing this, so then I'll get into it. Do it with a perspective of actually exploring the space and then really understanding what your child needs. I think the
Hmm.
really like what the alternative education space brings to us is that each parent can choose what kind of education their child needs.
Hmm.
If it is a child that is maybe someone that needs more instructions and you feel like wants to be in that space, okay, fine, that's your choice. But the parent needs to make that choice and not feel like it's making out of compulsion. Okay,
Hmm.
so now my neighbor is putting their kid here, so I'll also put it here. It shouldn't be like that. So this
Hmm.
person is saying that homeschooling is good, so I'll also start.
Hmm.
Why do you think why do you think your child needs homeschooling? Like, what
Correct,
is the
correct.
reasoning behind it?
Hmm.
Is it like something that your child needs? So instead of doing it because it's a trending thing, do it
Hmm.
for your child. Like, really concentrate that whole education for your child, see what he needs, and then choose from the different alternative choices.
I think you're very right. I think also, I think this kind of catching trends happens when you are not completely aware of, yourself, your child, and then about what are my options.
Mm,
Is it, applicable to me? I think when you're not aware and you don't make an effort to understand that, right?
mm,
So then what happens is you start following someone, and then you're lost in the journey somewhere. You don't know what you're doing, and then um and then actually most of the problem starts from there. So I guess like you are doing through your channel, when people see that these kind of options exist, like something that you said earlier, that not every college or every institution would need your mark sheets. So they would even now even it is possible for homeschoolers and unschoolers that they follow their interest and they build on their profile portfolio with that kind of whatever their interest, and they can have internships online. They can work in different places like you are exploring, and that's very hands on sort of a learning, I think. And I think that makes me at the same time quite happy or excited about it, that now in many cities these things are popping up. You call it micro school or you call it alternate spaces, whatever, but that fear that what will I do if I don't have the 10th or 12th certificate or degree report card, that fear should go away. And I think once this fear slowly goes away, parents will be able to adapt to different kind of learning, following their interest, helping kids to explore more. But that also means that parents have time for kids, right? So when you were visiting different places, and when I don't know how many homeschoolers or unschoolers you have been meeting or you have met, so how do you think that the involvement of parents can do you think it can really elevate how kids grow? And I think like your parents would have taken that decision so long ago without being fearless and you know letting you explore something very different. So what do you say of that?
What role the parent plays?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think parents play a huge role in any child's education, because I feel like the child spends maximum time in two places: the school, if they go to a school, or with at home, which is the home environment. So I feel like, because most alternative schools that I've been to, they have a very thorough process for the parent and not for the child. Like, they'll keep making sure that the parent and the mindset of the parent is the same mindset of the school. Even my school, they'll keep interviewing the parent and really seeing if that mindset matches, because they feel like, if now in the school environment the child is learning something, and when they go home they're learning something completely different, very different values, the child feels torn, no? There are two very different perspectives that is like pulling him and tugging him. So the growth is also very like disturbed in a certain sense. So to help him in from both channels, I feel like both have to work together. It's not only a parent thing or only a school thing. Even if it's a homeschooler, there will be different stakeholders, no? Even if they go to a grandparent's house or a neighbor's house, anywhere. So there needs to be that certain level of stakeholder involvement where everyone is on the same page of how we want to view this child, how we want to help them in this growth, how much freedom do we want to give. That's up to the parent. I'm not going to be involved in that, but it needs to be a very conscious decision, instead of it being that the parent thinking that, okay, I can do whatever at home, but I'll send him to a very expensive school, and that's
Correct.
okay. Now I'll be happy and I can do whatever at home. It doesn't work like that. Like, the child, whatever they see while growing up, they will really inculcate, imbibe that as an adult, and their whole emotional values, well-being, everything will be affected by that. What I've seen is that even my kids, how much ever I might teach them on a school level, like in a class, when they go home, they will completely, because for them parents matter the most. Obviously, for any of us, our parents matter more than any of our teachers. It's always that personal familial bond. So that I feel like that's why parents need to realize the responsibility that they have, because kids value them so much. They play a larger role than teachers, I would say, in the child's education. So I feel like the parent needs to be very responsible in how they act, how they behave, everything towards the child, so that the child can get the most holistic education. So the most holistic education is not up to the school, but it's how the school is involved with the parents and how stakeholders are like holistic.
Beautifully explained. I think it's really really important that how how you are at home, and what differences a child feels. They might learn whatever in school, but when they come and they see there's a difference of everything, then they are quite lost and confused, I'm sure. I think I what I was thinking is to be able to explore education. Not many people come into this field of generally it's a very traditional path. Even if you want to teach in India, you do the certain courses, you take a B.Ed, and then you get into school, you get frustrated sometimes because you don't get to do a couple of things that you would have wanted to do. You think of something else. Everybody wants to become the Tare Zameen Par wala teacher, but something else happens. But I wish more of those kind of teachers were there. I also feel that I had those kind of education system while I was growing up, and all of us think that if I had those choices where I could pursue what I wanted instead of just learning 1 to 8, uh, you know but thankfully there is a shift, at least in how work is being perceived, how freelancers are growing, how people are talking more about skills now than degrees, and that is going to be very important, I think, in the coming age. It's here. I mean, it's not even in future. So what do you think of your future, Sanjana? What plans you have, if you have, and if you would like to share? What do you think?
Um, I'll go either two ways.
Mm.
I think that either I would end up with starting one school, like having
Mhm.
one school, or
Mm.
the other thing would be that I like having that school with all the different experiences, all the different alternative schools that I visited, the best things
Mm.
from all of them,
Mm.
and start something. Or
Mm.
the other thing would be to have something so that all different government schools that already are there that exists right now
Mm.
can have alternative values inside
Mm.
ingrained. So then having an organization that makes sure that different schools can be bettered in a more right now all NGOs or any organization only helps other schools in pursuing their own whatever they're doing. Then let's
Correct,
say
correct.
I'll not take names of organizations, but they'll just take whatever, if this is an exam thing, they'll just take that and like make the exam for the child to prepare for that exam like better. But no one is thinking about how to better education or like
Correct,
how
correct,
to
correct.
be
Mm.
better, how to
Mm.
really make parents think. Now
Mm.
parents are already thinking on a certain pattern. They're like, okay, let's just push it more and like make them more anxious about it. So if it's an
Mm.
exam, they'll make parents more anxious and then ask them to
Mm.
buy the course or things like that. So I feel like instead of that, you
Mm.
really challenge your organization or something where you really push parents to think on a divergent line altogether on
Mm.
how they can involved or how education could look like. So yeah, either one of them, either an organization or a school, one of them, but don't know.
I think you will do great things. You're already up for it. In fact, being able to explore learning at an age where people really don't know what they are doing, and that, of course, the little credit also goes to kind of the space you had because you were able to look what's happening around you, the freedom. And I think every kid, I mean, I don't know if it's a very dreamy thing that I'm saying, but I wish every kid had that opportunity to be able to dream, to be a free a dreamer, of to be able to pursue what they want, to at least explore, right? We sadly, like you said, that 10-year-old children also, um, they want you to write things so that they can copy, because see, it's so early that their curiosity and their creativity has come down to that level where they just want to finish off the task, because ultimately they will have to write exams. They know that, right? And that's the reason they don't want to waste time in trying something, having fun. I mean, there were times when kids have told me, senior kids have told me that, why do you want to talk and have discussions? Just get to the point, and and
Yeah.
because ultimately they'll be writing exams, so they were like, why don't you just give us the questions and ask us what to do, and we'll mind our own business. So I can understand where it all comes from. It's sad, but at the same time, I think things are changing now. Many parents are seeking different options, and that's a good thing, good sign. And people like you are will be change makers, and are change makers, I think. Thank you, Sanjana, for being here and sharing. I think if I keep talking to you, I will never be able to end. But I love what you're doing, and I support your journey from my heart. And thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much for uh, letting me have this space and like talk about my journey and like really have a fellow educator talk about this. So that made it even better.
Thank you, Sanjana. Catch you again sometime. Bye bye.